Hello guys, Instant Gorilla here, welcome back to my channel. I decided to take a few, make a new what if, a Belle what if this time. And as you can see by the picture, that's what Belle is going to have. Belle is going to have the powers from a certain character, from a random character off of League of Legends. I don't know any of the League of Legends powers anymore because I used to play it. And half of all the characters' names just went over my head as I stopped playing it. Anyway, a bit of backstory. Now, Belle Crenell has a long family history of randomly picking up a power from a character from League of Legends. Sorry, I was having something to drink there. As her, sorry. Pardon. As they have the randomness of hell to constantly pick up the power from, obviously, League of Legends, but half the time it turns out to be wings of like an angel and certain abilities. Belle Grenell was the next in line to pick up this power, but his family was killed when he was a baby, so we never really knew him, and he didn't know that he had this power. Until an old man came along and took him as his own, as he went by the name of Zeus. Now, Zeus is not a pervert in this one. Zeus is the strong, hardy man who loves everybody. He loves all of his children, basically. And this is after he faced the Black Dragon, along with Athena. And Zeus raises Belle as basically if Belle was his own son. And going to where Belle was around about 4, Belle started distributing feathers when he wakes up. Well, when Belle wakes up, he notices there are white feathers surrounding his bed as he walks out of his bedroom to see his grandfather. As Belle tries to explain, saying, "Grandpa, there's something weird going on." As Zeus says, "Oh, what is it, young Belle? It can't be that bad." As Belle pulls out a lot of white feathers from his pocket, which Zeus says, "Ha feathers? Really? You find white feathers weird?" As Belle says, "That's not all. They're the only things I could pick up in my room at the minute, because my room is covered in them." As Zeus chuckles and says, "Let's go and see if we can clean that up then, shall we?" As they both walk off. As Zeus walks into Belle's bedroom, he says, "Oh my. Oh my indeed. You do have a lot of white feathers in your room. How the heck did this happen?" Anyway, we can't worry about that now. Let's try and clean this all up, shall we? Then we'll go into town and go and get you something to eat. Sound like a deal? "Yes, Grandpa," as Belle replies. as they clean up Belle's room. During this, Zeus thinks to himself, saying, "This is weird. These feathers, they're like angel wings. People go up to heaven and that. All the stories I hear. But we gods don't die. We just go back to heaven ourselves, and we never see people with wings." Oh well. Perhaps there's just a slight alteration with a flock of birds that went overhead, and a lot of their feathers just fell down, and because the window's open, perhaps they got blown in by the wind. Could be possible, but I didn't hear any birds last night, or hell, early this morning. Perhaps Hades may know. Either that, or this is Hades having a laugh and a joke with me. Wouldn't surprise me. That, or it's Loki. As a few more years pass, to where Zeus does his vanishing act. We don't know if Zeus is dead or not, so he's not in this. As Belle then says, "Don't worry, Grandpa, I'm going to become an adventurer." As Belle leaves and walks off towards Orario. Or Orario. After a few days of travelling, he reaches Orario. The same thing happens, nobody takes him in. He gets an interest from Loki and also Freya. Freya doesn't approach him. Loki does approach him, but acts like she's just walking past him. As she can feel power coming from Belle, but doesn't want to jump to conclusions or bring him into his or her own familia. For complicity's sake, her. As Belle finally hits a dead end, and this is where goddess Hestia turns up. And the start of Hestia and Belle's friendship. Hestia being protective over him, considering he's her first son, basically, or familiar member, but she's really overprotective of him. And this is where Belle heads into the dungeon for the first time. He gets a dagger, well, the same weapon he had in canon, and this time it's a short sword and he has a long sword. And he goes into the dungeon to sort of train how to use them on the lower level monsters. After a few hours, he gets quite good as he goes deeper and deeper, until the minotaur turns up, as it breaks both of his weapons. Belle running into the same corner he was in, where Eyes saves him. But this time, as Eyes Wallenstein arrives, she gets blinded by a bright light coming from Belle. As Belle suddenly appears in front of her, as she opens her eyes to see what look like wings sprouting from Belle's back. Two of the wings have a golden strip going across the top. As Belle grows to nearly the same height as Eyes. Or almost the same height as Eyes. He's just a little bit, well, I think he is the same height as Eyes, just slightly shorter. But I'm going to have him as slightly taller than her. As also armour appears over Belle. Now, Belle turns around to face the Minotaur as a ring appears over his head, as Eyes and the mage that turns up with her just stand there in awe as the Minotaur gets, well, cut into pieces. As it seems to be like Belle, Crenell is actually on the opposite side of the Minotaur. As the Minotaur goes poof, as its stone hits the floor. Eyes Wallenstein being very surprised and very interested in him due to that ability. As she walks up to Belle, as the wings disappear, but his height remains the same. And plus the halo ringer disappears as well. But two swords stay behind out of a golden light. As Eyes Wallenstein picks one of them up, it sort of burns her. As she drops it and it hits Belle, fearing that it might burn him, she tries to pick it up again to only notice that it's not hurting him at all. As she says, okay, as she rolls Belle rolls Belle onto his back and puts one arm under him to lift him up, as the mage helps Eyes with his other side. Or shall I say, she makes a stretcher, says Eyes, as she just makes a small stretcher for him, saying, let's put him on here and we'll take him back up. As they do just that. Eventually, they find a teleport crystal area and they teleport straight back to the surface. Now, Eyes is a level 4 in this already, so yeah. As Belle has actually reached level 2, because what he did was spectacular. And nobody knows of the double and triple S ranks either. They only know of the 1S rank. As they find a god who says this is Belle Crenell. Do we know who he? Well, no. They go directly to Miss Anna, who's Belle's support worker, as she says, "Oh my God, what happened to Belle?" As Eyes says, "We found him on the 4th level, passed out, after fighting what seems like he was fighting a minotaur." Everybody sort of looks over to her and says, "A minotaur? seriously? As she says yes, but she also asks where's Belle's goddess or god? As Aina says, oh, she lives out in the out somewhere in a old broken down church. As Ice and the mage says, okay, we'll go look for her. As they do, to find that Hestia is standing outside, saying, Belle, where did you go? You didn't come back last night. As she hears, excuse me, Goddess Hestia, as she sees a young woman with silver hair and green eyes, with with a, another girl, with, that's a elf. So, guys, as she runs over after seeing Belle, saying, Belle, what the hell happened to you? And why the hell are they their two new swords? You went out with a dagger and a sword. As Eisenstein says, we don't know what happened to him. We found him passed out with those swords next to him. But be aware, if you try to pick them up, they will burn, because I did that. As Hestia being Hestia, says if they burn, they burn. I don't mind. As she picks one up and it burns her. As Belle starts to subtly wake up, like saying, ow, my head. As he gets up, well, tries to get up, as the mage just puts a finger on his head and pushes him back down, saying, no, you stay there. After what you've been through, your body's most probably in a lot of pain. As they say, as Hestia says, come inside and we'll get him onto the bed, onto one bed. I sleep on the couch. Well, I'll be sleeping on the couch this time. As they walk in and walk down to the little living area, as Hestia says, right, roll him onto his back, because I want to check his leveling. As they do. As Hestia says, can you two look away, please, because this is important. As they do. I's taking a little sneak peek without Goddess Hestia knowing about it. Or her companion, to be precise. Hang on that, guys. Anyway, as I was saying, with Goddess Hestia not paying much attention, Eyes had a sneak little peek as she saw Belle's leveling and noticed that there was 2 S's and a 3. She decides to keep this information to herself and not even tell her own goddess. As eventually Hestia tells him that he is now rank 2, as she tells him he's also got a spell, which is surprising. And not only surprising is that he's got a spell, he's also a rank 2, which is downright unbelievable. Because she says that it's extremely rare for a level 1 adventurer to reach level 2 in the amount of time he has. As he says, sorry, Goddess Hestia, but I don't know how to explain how I got to this level so fast. Hestia says it's alright. You want to know that you got up to level 2. But she does ask the question, what happened in the dungeon? As he says, I don't know. I was being chased by a minotaur, and I lost track of time. As I said, I know what happened to him, along with my companion here. And she says yes, because we both saw it happen. As Hestia says, saw what happened? As I says, well, you most probably noticed that he's grown a bit. As Eyes is a bit dumb, but not that dumb. She just didn't realise that he had. As she says, now that you mention it, he has. As eventually Belle gets up off of the bed to look at his skills, which he has Argonaut still. As Eyes explains what happened away from Belle, and she says what happened to him was that a minotaur was about to crush him. As me and my friend got up there, we found him in the corner. I was about to jump in, but ended up getting blinded by a bright light coming from Belle. As her companion says, well, but all of us were blinded, including the Minotaur. As he suddenly appeared right in front of Eyes, as what looked like angel wings grew from his back, and two swords appeared. After the light vanished, we found him passed out with the Minotaur's stone next to him. As it appears like he was like he transformed into something else, as he sliced the Minotaur to pieces, then just passed out. His wings vanished, but his two swords and his height stayed the same. So we don't really know what's going on with him. We don't think you would know either, but we had to come down here and ask. As Hestia shakes her head, saying, I don't know either. As Bill is still downstairs, but for someone, he starts thinking to himself, it's weird. Why can I start hearing thoughts? As he hears Eyes, Hestia's, and the mage, his thoughts, all as they are thinking, what the heck is wrong with that with Belle? First the wings and the swords. Now first his height and the wings and the swords. What else is going to happen to him if he continues growing as an adventurer? Is it just a mutation in his body, or is it a new type of person? As Belle has no idea what they're talking about as he gets up and moves, not really noticing that as he moves, well, he thinks he's walking, but he's actually hovering. As he thinks he's walking towards the door, he opens it, then sort of flies out. As he opens the next door, saying, what are you three talking about? As they say, Belle, what are you doing up here? As they see the wings, and Belle floating. As the wings start flapping, sort of keeping him afloat. As they say, Belle, where did the wings come from? As Belle looks, says, "What ring?" Says, "What, what, what, what wings?" He says, "What rings? Rings? Wings." Sorry, damn it. As as Hestia says, just points to his back, saying, move both your hands behind your back." As Belle does, feeling feathers as he turns his head and freaks out, saying, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" As they say, "Can you try and land on the floor? Because you're floating?" As Belle looks down to realise that he is, he says, "I thought I was walking towards the door, not floating in the air." As he tries to find a way to get back down to the floor, eventually he does, but after it, grabbing hold of the wings and stopping them from flapping as he falls straight to the floor. He lands on his 2 feet as he lets go of the wings as they don't start like trying to take him off the floor again. As eyes says, "Let's see if they disappear," which unfortunately they do not this time. As they say, "Huh? So you must be a new kind of person, a new species, but one that has to reach a certain reach a mature age for the wings to appear." As Belle says, "Well, it was my 15th birthday yesterday, so that's perhaps why the wings are here." As they say, most probably. As eventually Eyes and her companion leave, as Hestia says, "Do not tell this to your goddess or god." As they both say, "We won't tell Loki," because I think Loki would already be slightly interested in Belle, but she chose not to bring him into our familiar. As another day goes by, Belle heads off to the dungeon again, but as he does, people sort of look at him and laugh and say, "What the hell's with the get up, kid?" As Belle says, "This isn't a get up. These are actually real." As they say, "Yeah, right." As one of them hits the wing, as Belle sort of yelps in pain, saying, "Ow, that hurt. Don't do that again, because that really, really hurt." As they say, "Yeah, right. They're fake." As one guy pulls on him, as Belle goes with it, as he says, "Ow, ow, 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 get off, get off, get off." Eventually, as he pulls himself back, the wings start to actually flutter again as they take him off the ground. As he starts to, semi float, as the wings start flapping. As the adventurers and all the other people where Belle is see this, as they all are in awe, and then see that there's joints at the back, joinings at the back of Belle that lead into his back. So they realize that he's not joking, this is actually real. As the adventurer that actually was doing that gets on his hands and knees and says, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me." As Belle says, "I do. Just please don't do it again because it really hurts." As he says, "I will." as Belle says, right now I need to figure out how to get back to the floor again. As somebody grabs hold of his wings again, saying sorry, but this should help, as Belle comes back down to the ground, as he says, thank you. As the woman, who turns out to be a woman, says it's alright, but she's cloaked, so nobody can really tell who it is. As she goes off somewhere, as Belle says that was weird, but oh well, as he heads off to the dungeon. Eventually getting to the dungeon and having a small test to see what his wings can do with his new swords. After a few hours, he gets exhausted and falls exactly where the minotaur and him had that little spit and spat as he falls asleep. With the wings still not disappearing, as he can hear people start to hear people's thoughts, as he hears, one thought saying, why does Eyes believe this Belle Cornell is some new being? He's most probably just a mutation, just like just like me, because I've got a tail and ears. So what makes this guy so special? Is he hears Eyes' thoughts saying, I hope Bet realizes that this guy is possibly more powerful than me, and he's only level 2. And we're both level 4s. I'm most probably approaching level 5. As eventually they bump into Belle as he's lying on the floor. As I says, as Bet says, this person must have tired himself out. As I says, that's Belle Cornell. As Bet says, just laughs and says, yeah, a runt like him. Is this secret new being of yours? As I says, well, try and pick up his sword then. As Bet says, I don't need swords, I just use my fists. As Eyes hits him, just saying, pick up the sword and see what happens. As Bet does, realizing that as he picks it up, his hands start to be burned. As he just puts it back, as it hits Belle on the head, because he dropped it. As Belle wakes up, saying, ow, what was that for? Realizing that it was somebody with grey hair, and ears like a dog. Well, ears sort of like a dog and a tail. Says, oh, sorry, I didn't notice you guys were coming up. As Belle says, Bet, right? As Bet sort of says, yeah, but how the hell did you know my name? As Eyes says, it's nice to see you again, Belle Cornell. As Belle says, nice to see you too as well, Eyes. But what are you two doing here? As they say, they just finished a small adventure to the 7th floor. As Belle says, okay, I've then just got back down here. Sorry, guys. Anyway, as Bet says, so what's with the get up with the wings and that? As Belle says, I still have no idea. Even Eyes and her last companion she was with, including the goddess Hestia, were a bit confused on this. As Bed just sort of chuckles and says, "So even gods do not know what you are? Wow, this is rich." As Eyes sort of elbows him in the ribs, saying, "Shut up. This is not a laughing matter." As Belle said, just simply puts up his hand, saying it's alright. He has sort of the right to laugh, because not everybody believes it. Hell, I don't believe it either. So, yeah. Eventually, Belle walks away, saying, "See you guys later. See you guys next time." As Bet looks at him, as Belle's wings start to flap again, and he lifts off the ground as he continues going onwards. As Bet says, "Huh, so he can fly. Whoop-de-doo. There are plenty of people who can fly. You for one of them, Eyes." As Eyes says, "Yes, but that's because I'm using magic. He's not. That's pure muscle power from his wings." As Bet says, "Yeah, he's most probably using magic. There's no way wings can just simply appear on a random person. Then they become, what, some sort of omnipotent god? What a joke, guys." Eventually, god damn it. Sorry, guys, if you guys hear me cough. I don't have COVID. Just got a ton of phlegm going into my throat. Well, in my throat. As eventually, Belle gets to the Virtus of Fertility, that pub that he usually goes to. As he gets something to eat, as eventually the Loki Familia walk in and have their own drinks. Bet still says the same things he says in canon, but Belle just continues eating his food. Because his wings are still out, a lot of people are still looking at him. Eventually just going back to their own food. As the Amazons, Liara and her sister both notice two sets of wings and a boy with white hair and red eyes having something to eat. They're slightly drunk, but not too drunk because they don't drink that much. As they say, "Hey, is that the guy that Bet was talking about?" As Loki looks over to see Belle, as Belle is still eating. As Loki says, "Yeah, that must be, because the description is smack on the money." As Eyes walks up to him and sort of smacks him on the back of the chest, well, on his back. As Belle sort of spits out what he was eating, he says, "Ow, what was that for?" Well, says, "Ow, what was that for? And who the hell did that?" As Eyes says, "It was me, Belle Cronell." As he sort of turns around very quickly, smacking Eyes with his wings by accident, as it hurts her but hurts him at the same time. As he curls both of the two wings in, as he says, "Ow, that hurt. Sorry for turning around so fast." As Eyes says, "It's okay. You were sort of startled from me, anyway." As Loki walks over and says, "What the hell's with the wings? And where the hell did Goddess Hestia get you?" As Belle says, "Sorry, miss, but I don't think we've met." As she says, "My name is Loki, Goddess Loki." As Belle says, apologizes, saying he didn't realize. As Loki just says, it's alright. But where the hell did the wings come from? And not to mention the swords. As Loki attempts to pick it up, but gets burned as well. As she says, "How they are hot as hell." As Belle says, "Yeah, I don't know myself. Apparently, only I can touch them without getting burned." As they look at his hands, and his hands are not even singed. As they continue the night, Belle doesn't run out this time, and he actually joins the Loki Familia and having something to drink. Eventually, he walks off home. As he goes to sleep in the church. As eventually he gets up again and goes with Goddess Hestia as they go to the festival that was going on. And like in canon, Freya gets the silverback monkey to cause a bit of problems. This is also where he meets his adventure support manager, Anna. And she's also enjoying a bit of some time off. As the silverback gorilla monster starts attacking and singles out Belle this time. Well, singles out Belle like it does in canon. As it launches an attack, Belle dodges it very handedly as Goddess Hestia makes a run for it. But this time she doesn't get Hephaestus to make anything for Belle, as she sees it as unnecessary. As Belle sort of takes the gorilla on a wild goose chase for a bit to a clear open area where no civilians are around. As well, everybody sees this guy with wings running away from a gorilla, then to stop a punch from a gorilla with his sword, where it bends but doesn't break. As the gorilla sends another one, Belle finds himself in a bit of a dilemma because he can't get his other sword up at the correct time the punch will hit. As his eyes, as he closes his eyes, as he suddenly finds himself up in the sky. As the gorilla doesn't see him but can still smell him. As the gorilla looks up to see that Belle is up in the sky. As Belle sort of falls down, as his eyes turn into a fiery yellow, with streaks of yellow coming out of his eyes. As he crawls up into a ball, then launches out his arms and legs as a bright light appears. The halo ring returns, along with several swords this time, as you can see in the picture. As Belle sort of rushes at the gorilla, slicing and dicing it, taking off its headpiece and its armor, As the gorilla turns to face him, all the swords that were floating stab the gorilla, or the silverback gorilla, as it does the same thing in canon, gurgle a bit, then fall down. As it goes poof. As Belle turns around, everybody gives him a round of applause, including Hestia, Anna, and Eyes, and Loki, who actually turn up at the last minute to see this. As they see that Belle's eyes have gone a different colour than their white and red, they've gone a pure golden colour, like his entire eye, all of it, both of his eyes have gone a golden, fiery golden colour, with streaks of it coming out of his eyes. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. As he flies, lifts himself back up again with his wings, as he floats there for a bit, as all of them are still giving a round of applause, as he lifts one of his swords up in a sign of victory. And a few more days pass. Belle gets the name of the one, not the one. It's not going to be Argonaut this time, as he just gets the word of not angel, because too cliche, of the one of, you guys write down in the comments below what you want Belle's new name to be. As I can't think of anything. You guys can think of something, because you guys are much better at naming things than I am. So yeah. The gods have a discussion about Belle, as Belle just does his own thing. As the gods continue having their discussion, Eyes actually speaks to Belle in private, like away from everybody, as his eyes and everything else go back to normal and the swords disappear. As everybody leaves him alone, but they keep good eye on him whenever they see him, and give him some food whenever he's actually going to the dungeon. As eventually Eyes asks him a very important question, as she asks him, "Are you the illegitimate child of a god or something?" As Bill says, "I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I know I'm not, because my grandfather always said this ability that there was always something weird about me. But he said it's just most probably just kids playing jokes on me all the time because of my red eyes." His eyes says, "Oh," as she just says, "It's not that you're weird, it's that those wings and your ability to just do stuff without thinking And that power that turns up, it might be something within your own bloodline. As Belle says, I don't know. According to my grandfather, he found me as a toddler with two bodies next to me. So I guess that the two bodies were my parents. As I says, I'm sorry, I didn't want to bring up any bad memories. As Belle just says, you didn't bring up any bad memories, I barely knew them. As eventually Belle meets Lily as he's going into the dungeon again. Lily does not question the wings because she's already seen him in combat and she knows that he is literally as strong, possibly even stronger than a level 10 monster. Little does she know that he's only a level 2, not a level 9. Because in Lily's mind, that's what he is. He's a level 9 in her eyes. Which he isn't. As Belle says, we're going to go down to level 6. As Lily says, we could go down to level 7. As Belle says, why not? As long as you can keep up with me, that's fine by me. But if you ever need to take a break, just tell me and we can both stop. After all, if you're going to be supporting me, might as well support you in the process. Saying the same thing in canon. As Lily is grateful and says thanks, but I think I can manage. As Belle says okay, not realizing that he's floating again. Or hovering again. As Lily says, do you always have the habit of hovering with those wings of yours? As Belle says, am I doing it again? Damn it. As he grabs all of his wings as he hits the ground. Saying sorry, but I've never really been able to get myself to walk on both of my feet. On both of my feet. Ever since my wings appeared a few days ago, I've been unable to walk normally. When I'm not expecting it, I start flying. As Lily says, why don't you try and teach yourself not to rely on your wings? As Belle says, I'll actually take that into consideration. Thank you, Lily. As he pats her on the head and says, whenever if we get enough, I'm going to split it 2 ways. You take half and I take half. As Lily says, why would you do that for me? I'm just a support adventurer. As Belle just says, a support adventurer maybe, but you're still supporting me, so I don't see why you should be the only one who doesn't get anything out of it. As her eyes gleam, she says, thank you, Belle, or thank you, Master Belle. As Belle just says, don't call me Master. I'm just helping out. I'm just helping people out. As he could still hear her thoughts saying, I don't want to do this to him, but once I get his trust enough, I'm just going to abandon him. As I still see him as all other adventurers do. As I still see him like other adventurers who will just get up and abandon you afterwards. As Belle continues to listen to her thoughts as she says, but I need the money to pay off my debt. And if I can find somebody who can take me in, I'll be grateful for it. As Bill and Lily start clearing floors, they have a small break. As he says, Lily. As she says, yes, Master Bell. As he says, I know why you're doing this, and I'm asking you, don't lie to me and be upfront and truthful. As Lily starts sweating, saying, I don't know what you're talking about, Master Bell. As he says, you're in debt with the Half-Ice, with your familiar. You want enough money to pay off your debt, but you're also looking for another god to serve. As Lily is shaking, saying, how did you know this? As Bill says, I have the unfortunate ability of reading people's inner thoughts. It's something that I'm not proud of. And I've tried to teach myself to stop that, but unfortunately I can't. As much as I want to. I just can't. As Lily comes forth and says that he is extremely correct. She is in debt with her familiar and she just wants to get out of it. But every time she tries, they say that she hasn't even paid off her debt yet, so she can't leave. As Belle just says that was wrong, they shouldn't be doing this. As they go down to the floor where Lily says she was going to betray him, but they end up clearing the level and heading back up. And Lily profusely apologizes to Belle as he says, it's okay, I understand why you're doing that. The same thing happens with um Anna, Anna and Hestia, where Anna tries to get Hestia to get Belle away from Lily. As the whole thing happens. As they go to the bank, as Belle cashes in all the money that he and Lily have got. Anna says, that's a lot. I know you're strong, but you must be stronger than Eyes Wallenstein. As Lily says, the Sword Princess? Seriously? As Belle says, yeah, this is what everybody's sort of been saying nowadays. Just because I've got wings and I can do things with just being a level 2. Lily hearing that he's just a level 2 sort of smacks her in the face for a bit. As her inner thoughts saying, I thought he was a level 9, not a level 2. How much do I overestimate this guy? As Belle sort of says, I can still hear your thoughts, right? As she's just in her thoughts, still thinking, saying, shut up, Master Belle. This is so confusing. As he just chuckles to himself, as he says, can you split it halfway? Half for me and half for Lily. As Anna sort of says, sure, but why would you split it halfway with a girl like that? Anyway, that's where I'm ending it off, guys. This is a new one. Hope you all like, comment, and subscribe. And please, and I'm begging you, give me a name to give Belle for his new name, so everybody will know him as. Thank you. Have a good day. And also, I'll be quitting. Well, not quitting, just coming off for a bit due to it coming up to Christmas. I'll do the individual video here and there. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and Have a good Christmas, everybody.